Did you know that in just 12 months, the company that once lived for your gaming rig effectively deleted the consumer from its balance sheet? Why is it that in 2025, Nvidia's data center segment generated a staggering $115 billion? That represents over 88% of its total revenue. Meanwhile, the gaming market that built the company was left to rot at a mere 8.7%. Is the era of the budget PC build officially dead, when the contract price for a single 16GB DDR5 memory chip skyrocketed by nearly 300% in just one quarter? Have you noticed that your personal computer is becoming a rental property? Why are manufacturers like Samsung and SK Hynix abandoning standard RAM production to chase the high-margin, high-bandwidth memory required for AI servers? Is it a coincidence that as Nvidia's stock retreated $165 billion in a single day, your local utility bill in Maryland or Ohio is expected to rise by up to $18 a month? You are paying that just to subsidize the massive power grids for data centers. Could the hardware in your next laptop be part of a global kill web? Why has Nvidia pivoted to become a strategic defense asset comparable to Lockheed Martin, powering the Department of Defense's Replicator initiative with autonomous drone swarms? If the AI industrial complex is consuming 2.1 billion gallons of water annually in Northern Virginia alone, what happens when your digital life competes with your literal survival? Are we witnessing the final days of technological ownership? Or has Nvidia already destroyed the consumer market forever? Let me explain how this works. For 2 decades, a social contract existed between Nvidia and the PC gamer. Consumer demand drove innovation. By late 2025, that contract has been violently terminated. Nvidia has undergone a revenue inversion, while its data center revenue exploded by 142% year over year. Gaming revenue stagnated, barely keeping pace with inflation. The economic logic is simple. A single rack of Blackwell GPUs generates more revenue than tens of thousands of consumer graphics cards, with lower support costs. This has led to a successive strategy where Nvidia uses its allocation authority to prioritize trillion-dollar hyperscalers like Microsoft and Meta. The average consumer is left to fight for the scraps of older fabrication nodes and lower-bin silicon. The AI pivot has triggered a resource crisis known as the silicon famine. Because AI accelerators require high-bandwidth memory, production lines for standard consumer RAM are being cannibalized. First, there is the RAM tax. Between 2024 and 2025, spot prices for consumer-grade DDR5 nearly tripled, killing the possibility of affordable high-performance computing. Second, the smartphone tax. High-end Nvidia chips now use the same LPDDR5X memory as flagship phones. One Nvidia Grace chip can consume as much memory as 60 premium smartphones. This drives up mobile device costs by an estimated 8%. And finally, storage reversal. A decade of falling SSD prices has ended. As NAND flash is diverted to enterprise data lakes, consumer SSD prices have reversed course, rising by 10% or more. Critics argue the current AI boom is built on a circular economy of hype that mimics the dot-com era. Here is the loop. Major tech firms like Microsoft and Nvidia invest billions into AI startups like OpenAI or CoreWeave. These startups then use that same capital to purchase Nvidia chips and cloud compute from their own investors. This allows companies to book the incoming cash as growth on their balance sheets. It is revenue washing. But here's the risk. If this circular financing stops, as hinted when Oracle faced funding challenges that wiped $165 billion off Nvidia's market cap, the entire sector could face a systemic collapse. Slow down for the metaphor at the end. This brings us to the final ruin, the death of digital ownership. Nvidia's GeForce Now service introduced a 100-hour monthly cap, signaling that compute is now a finite resource to be rationed. Leaks regarding Windows 12 suggest a move toward a subscription-based operating system. If you stop paying, you lose not just your software, but the intelligence of your PC. Nvidia's pivot was not just a business strategy. It was a fundamental betrayal of the promise of personal computing. We are entering an era of centralized, rented, and militarized intelligence, where you are no longer a participant in the revolution, but merely a tenant. Think of it this way. Imagine a local grocery store that realized it could make 1,000 times more profit by selling its entire inventory exclusively to the military and private billionaires. They haven't just raised the price of milk, they've repurposed the cows to make high-grade leather for jet fighter seats, leaving you to subscribe to a cloud milk service that only delivers when the military doesn't need the trucks.